Is this a drug bust or an unprecedented act of state-sponsored betrayal? The hunt for the truth starts now.
Tonight, a federal raid on a fortified Texas warehouse has unmasked a national security nightmare. It wasn't just contraband.
3:15 a.m. in the El Paso industrial area of Texas. The desert air was heavy, tinged with the smell of diesel fuel and dust. A DEA task force moved across the steel plates of a massive, fortified warehouse. With a series of explosions, the heavy warehouse doors were blown open. Stun grenades filled the air with a white flash and the smell of magnesium. The agents stormed inside, weapons raised, anticipating finding 500 pounds of vacuum-packed fentanyl and a group of armed cartel henchmen. The ground floor was empty, only the sound of footsteps echoing on the concrete. At the back of the building, behind a concealed reinforced steel door, the task force discovered something inexplicable. Instead of a filthy drug lab, they found a spotless, perfectly temperature-controlled room. In the center, a high-end server rack vibrated with a faint electrical tremor. A blue LED flashed across the metal casing, indicating a massive amount of data was being transmitted. An analyst pulled a cable, causing the main screen to freeze. On the screen, the encrypted personal travel log of a high-ranking U.S. security official was being streamed live in real time. The destination IP address led directly to a government security terminal 7,000 miles away in the heart of the Middle East. This was supposed to be just a street drug bust, but the agents had inadvertently stumbled into a high-level national security nightmare. The drugs were never the target, they were merely a cover for a digital assassination. If you want to know which official is in the crosshairs, hit the like button now. Inside the National Cyber Investigations Task Force, in the heart of Washington, analysts scrutinized data recovered from a warehouse in El Paso. They found a hidden partition on the server, dubbed the Red Book. This document was the financial backbone of a global drug state alliance, a bridge between the opium fields of the Middle East and the streets of Texas. These operators were the high-level accountants of a new kind of underground warfare. Every dollar of drug profit was converted into digital influence, used to purchase passwords and bribe government contractors at the highest levels. On the main screen, a decrypted file unfolded, revealing the personal resumes and private emails of a high-ranking official. The data contained not only travel logs, but also precise GPS coordinates and rescue routes for 12 undercover agents currently operating within foreign drug cartels. Such a discovery would be a death sentence for those on duty in the field. If these files were sold to the highest bidder, the entire American intelligence network in the region would be severed overnight. This clandestine link operated with terrifying efficiency. First, raw opium was transported from the Middle Eastern mountains to Mexican drug cartels. Then, these cartels processed the product into synthetic fentanyl and flooded the American market. Billions of dollars in cash were then transferred back through encrypted cryptocurrency exchanges to pay for high-level servers and elite hackers targeting this official. This was a closed criminal spiral, where addiction on American streets funded the destruction of the American government. By noon the following day, a Department of Justice official stood before a series of cameras and confirmed the intrusion was real. Newspaper headlines screamed about a complete security collapse and a compromised government. The public saw a disastrous intelligence failure, but inside the FBI, the mood was different. They weren't panicking, because the drug money used to finance this cyber attack was never invisible. Every penny of that cryptocurrency was tagged with a signatureless tracking code months before it reached the servers in El Paso. Experts in the cyber forensics unit are now tracking the flow of money in real time through a series of offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands and Dubai. Each time hackers accessed a stolen file, a digital signal was sent to a satellite in low Earth orbit. This was a massive, unintentional data leak from the terrorists themselves. By tracking the money flow, the FBI is now monitoring a live map of the entire global terrorist financing network. They see every shell company, every corrupt port official, and every secret bank account used by the coalition. The hackers thought they were stealing secrets, but in reality, they were connecting the dots to self-destruct. This was the largest ambush in the history of federal law enforcement. Behind the scenes, the Pentagon had begun to act. They were matching the digital addresses found in the Red Book with the physical coordinates in the desert. The drugs were the fuel, the data, the bait. Now, the trap was being set. The senior official sat in his Pentagon office, sipping a cup of black coffee. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, News of the massive data breach was being broadcast on every television channel nationwide. Opposite him, his chief of staff looked pale, his hand clutching a tablet displaying the latest news from the Middle East. The official merely nodded, a knowing smile fleeting across his lips as he glanced at the digital clock on the wall. Inside the encrypted folders the hackers believed they had stolen, a dormant program was beginning to operate. This specialized code, known internally as the Red Ledger Protocol, was a signatureless signal designed for a specific purpose. It neither erased data nor warned users of its presence. Within seconds of the files being opened inside a terrorist-sanctioned bunker, the virus began mapping the local network. Every server, every laptop, and every smartphone connected within that facility is now broadcasting their precise physical location. Up in the mountains of the Middle East, the leaders of the Drug States Coalition are celebrating what they call their final victory. They believe they hold the key to the U.S. government, including the names of every undercover agent within their territory. The leadership is now downloading the resumes, travel logs, and private correspondence of the person they believe they've eliminated. Every few minutes, a new signal is sent to the National Security Agency's satellite. These signals come from deep underground, from reinforced concrete bunkers previously invisible to the Americans. Back in Washington, the trap he set 6 months earlier, using his own private life as bait, has finally been triggered. He knows the drug terrorists can't resist the opportunity to humiliate a high-ranking American official. By letting them steal his data, he successfully bypassed their billion-dollar firewalls and infiltrated their most secret locations. The terrorists not only stole his secrets, they swallowed a digital poison pill that was slowly disintegrating their entire organization from the inside out. For years, the U.S. military had struggled to pinpoint the exact coordinates of these command and control centers. Conventional intelligence gathering had failed, but the hackers' greed created the perfect opportunity. They wanted to buy power with illicit money, but instead, they bought a one-way ticket to their own destruction. Right now, the coordinates were being fed directly into the navigation systems of Tomahawk missiles and Reaper drones. The high-ranking official wasn't worried about his reputation, because he knew that once the smoke cleared, no one would be able to read the leaked emails. Around the world, drug terrorists are opening files on high-resolution screens, mocking the private details of someone they consider an enemy. Hackers believe this information gives them leverage, a way to blackmail the American security apparatus into turning a blind eye. Each time they click a link or scroll down a page, the beacon virus sends another data packet to the Pentagon. This data includes facial recognition records of everyone in the room, recorded by the very webcams they thought were secure. The transfer of power is absolute, from the thieves back to the man they thought they had defeated. On the screens in the Pentagon, a map of the Middle East lights up with hundreds of tiny glowing dots. Each dot represents a high-value target, a drug lord, or a terrorist financier who thought himself invulnerable. The senior official rises and walks to the large tactical screen that occupies the far wall. He observed as the signal stabilized, providing a three-dimensional view of the enemy's most secret infrastructure. The hackers thought they were winning the information war, but in reality, they were providing data. This was the moment the digital world ended and the physical world began. The official looked at his chief of staff and nodded decisively. It was time to send in the cleanup crew. At 4:45 a.m., the digital trap snapped. The signal from the stolen files reached 100%. Thousands of American soldiers were moving toward the precise coordinates provided by the hackers themselves. At Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the engines of 20 C-17 transport planes roared as paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division loaded heavy ammunition crates. The mission was a precision strike to seize billions of dollars worth of fentanyl production centers, funding the coalition of drug-carrying nations. On the Atlantic, the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group sped across the waves at 30 knots, carrying 50 stealth fighters toward the target area. Every ship, every armored vehicle, and every soldier was a direct response to the data found in that El Paso warehouse. The 82nd Airborne Division and the Marine Corps weren't there to negotiate. Their mission was to seize the docks where chemicals were being transported to weapons. Under the cover of absolute electronic silence, the first wave of paratroopers parachuted from an altitude of 30,000 feet, using high-altitude parachutes to glide down to the target areas. On the ground, tactical execution began with a series of synchronized high-intensity raids. The task force used specialized thermite explosives to melt reinforced steel doors in less than 3 seconds. Inside the main command bunker, the air was filled with a pungent smell of ozone and stun grenade smoke. The drug traffickers were found in complete shock, sitting in front of the very screens they had used to view the stolen FBI files. In just 15 minutes, the masterminds of the global drug trafficking ring were bound and blindfolded. The final harvest of the operation began at 6 a.m. Black Hawk helicopters hovered over the occupied docks, their rotors creating massive clouds of industrial dust and sand. Heavy-duty lifting cables attached to seized server racks were then hoisted into the air and transported directly to the decks of waiting warships. On the docks, the 500 pounds of fentanyl found in El Paso had grown to 50 tons of the chemical precursor, now under the complete control of the U.S. Marine Corps. High-ranking targets were escorted one by one onto transport planes. This was the complete collapse of a billion-dollar infrastructure, accomplished in less than 3 hours. By 7 a.m., the 3 ports had become U.S. security zones. Warships in the harbor pointed their cannons out to sea, establishing a siege impenetrable by any smuggling vessel. Inside the Pentagon, senior officials watched the final green light flash on their tactical monitors, signaling that all physical targets had been neutralized. The physical battle was over with a decisive American victory, but the digital consequences were only just beginning. The terrorists in their bunkers realized too late that their physical walls were no match for a digital Trojan horse. Modern power is no longer measured by the caliber of a rifle. In the 21st century, the ultimate weapon is the accounting ledger. It's a silent administrative force that can destroy an empire without firing a single shot. Drugs smuggled across borders are the fuel, providing the billions of dollars needed to challenge. At the heart of the campaign, the data leak is the bait, a digital trap designed to lure the enemy into the open. Every account linked to the Red Book is frozen, every shell company is being liquidated, and every financier is being hunted down by algorithms. If you want full details of these offshore accounts and the names behind the curtain, comment "bust" below. You need to see how the link between the Sinaloa cartel and Tehran's intelligence units was finally broken. That investigation will be published this Friday, so hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is a world where ledgers are more dangerous than guns, and you're only just beginning to see how they're being used.